Frank?
India has asked UN Secretary General Font to use the influence of his office to stop what the Indian ambassador called the massacre of unarmed people in East Pakistan by the West Pakistan Army. Earlier, sources in India said that West Pakistan was continuing to bomb parts of East Pakistan, although the West claimed to have the rebellious province under complete control. And official sources say the Indian government has learned that the rebel leader of the eastern province, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, is free and is not imprisoned as claimed by the West. Michael Clayton of the British Broadcasting Corporation was one of many Western newsmen expelled from East Pakistan the day after the shooting started.
I was in the lobby of the Intercontinental Hotel in Dhaka last Thursday night when Pakistan soldiers suddenly hauled down the East Pakistan independent flag outside the hotel and burnt it. When I tried to leave by the hotel front door, they pushed me back at gunpoint. The army clampdown on Dhaka had begun. It was a ruthless exercise in intimidating the city's virtually unarmed population. Later on Friday, from the hotel, we watched tanks rumbling through Dhaka's mostly empty streets. Occasionally, a few warning shots were fired to keep people indoors. There'd been very little resistance by East Pakistan independence volunteers. An ordeal by fire was the next phase in the army's plan to quell Dhaka's resistance to the central government. Huge fires were started, including the students' hostel and some of the most crowded housing areas. Wrecked cars marked a spot where during the night I'd seen troops demand surrender from local people. Then they fired into the alley and burnt down a pro-independence newspaper office. Trucks of ammunition and weapons were driven away by the Pakistan army after seizing them from East Pakistan police who'd cooperated with the independence movement. Some East Pakistani soldiers were also disarmed by the West Pakistanis. The army broadcast curfew warnings and wrenched down independence flags from Dhaka's shops and houses. There were tough penalties for showing the flag after that. Mr. Bhutto, the West Pakistan People's Party leader, was given safe conduct out of the Intercontinental Hotel. He'd been attending the constitutional talks with the president. The troops warned us they'd fire at cameramen, and this film was shot by a French team from the hotel windows. It's the only film to escape the rigorous searching by the military authority when we were expelled. The president's ambition, he says, is still to transfer power from his army to the people. But that goal seemed remote, as the army bred still more resentment among the Pakistani community. Even when the curfew was lifted, the troops were to prevent gatherings of more than 5 people for the next 3 days at least. They clearly relished their role as the masters of East Pakistan. One can't estimate the number of dead so far in East Pakistan, but it would be impossible to fire guns for several hours in Dhaka and to set on fire so many buildings without causing considerable casualties. It's a desperately overcrowded community of people mainly living in shanty houses. The prospect of real resistance by the East Pakistanis is much better outside the towns. And if they organize an effective guerrilla force in the country, the East Pakistanis could, in the long run, still make it impossible for West Pakistan successfully to continue its domination from its power base 1,000 miles away. Michael Clayton, BBC News, reporting.
Daily, people are finding sites where mass executions took place in what was then East Pakistan and now is Bangladesh. Peter Grant reports.
Massacres took place in towns and villages throughout the country. The river port of Khulna is a classic example. Government and military officials estimate that 100,000 people died in the Khulna district alone. Much of the killing took place along the banks of this small waterway on the outskirts of town. Local residents say the Pakistani troops took Bengali civilians to the waterway every day for mass executions. Now only scattered bones and tattered clothes remain as grim reminders of the slaughter. Every few yards along the canal banks lie human skeletons. Locals claim tens of thousands died here, but no one can say for sure how many killings occurred. Massacres took place in many parts of Khulna. The victims were Bengalis, especially members of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League, Hindus, students, and professional men. Khulna residents speak bitterly of the murder and raping which went on for months. A common sight in Khulna is the capture of local men who collaborated with the Pakistani forces. The collaborators are kept in prison where they await trial by the Bangladesh government. Many Bengalis openly admit they want revenge. But many of those responsible for the killings in Khulna will never be caught, and the bodies of many of those who died will never be discovered. Locals say countless bodies were thrown into the river, and the Pakistani troops kept no records of the people they killed. Peter Grant, CBS News, at Khulna in Bangladesh.
There's no place like home, even after an army has called uninvited, casually killing and burning indiscriminately. Whole suburbs have been laid waste by West Pakistani troops. Yet the town is resisting. Almost the last major town of East Pakistan still holding out against the army, but its days are plainly numbered. The odds are that very shortly it will be reoccupied, its people again a sacrifice to the idea of a united Pakistan. To reach Rajshahi from India, my camera crew and I crossed the river Ganges and its great floodplain. A trek that refugees from the town fleeing the wrath to come were making in the other direction. A smoke plume billowed over the distant town, our first inkling of the fighting there. We found a siege within a siege. In command of the local Bengali resistance was Captain Gayas Chowdhury, a Pakistan army officer leading his people against his own army, a lively, intelligent Bengali with no illusions. Inside the town, which a month ago had 300,000 inhabitants, his men were besieging a Pakistan army garrison.
We have in fact surrounded them from all sides, and finally we'll be able to wipe them out from this place. Nowadays they're trying to get out of this place. Since our people are surrounding them, they can't make it.
Are they well armed inside?
Yes, they're very much well armed. They've got very modern weapons like Ricardo's rifle and American Theo Brownings and Chinese semi-automatic rifles.
The captain has rice, but not enough. Ammunition, but not enough. Guns which are too old, insufficient petrol, and outside help, which is not enough. He forecasts widespread famine within 15 days and epidemics. And privately he admitted the threat to Rajshahi from the army, advancing in strength from the east. But as he went on his morning rounds, he displayed good spirits. And his freedom fighters, as he called them, flying the flag of an independent Bengal of Bangladesh, played proud and confident despite the prospect of defeat and another Punjabi bloodletting. Rajshahi was in army hands until the beginning of April. Some 2,000 civilians were slaughtered before the captain's men drove the troops back into their garrison. Now most shops are shut. Tens of thousands of its inhabitants have fled the once teeming streets, and occasional ironies are evident. Rajshahi's best residential quarter within bullet range of the cantonment is now deserted, except for a few squatters. The flats give the captain's men an observation post to watch the beleaguered army garrison.
Can you see that chimney on that side? They are initially on that place. Now they're shifted towards left. There's a clump where they have made all the bunkers. It is in fact pillboxes, pakka built up with cement, reinforced concrete. They have made all those bunkers, underground bunkers, just to protect themselves from mortar fire, etc. And at places you'll find our troops within 500 yards on the left, and ahead also. In front of them also there are troops facing them.
446 04.
Is that you shooting? Or the enemy?
No, it's both sides. Both sides.
Captain, how long do you think you're going to be able to hold out here in this town?
I can't say, I can't commit. So far, so good. I mean to say, as regards this cantonment is concerned, to take away this within a week or so. But I believe they're trying to reinforce it with a very strong force. And I couldn't have corrected about it. What exact force is coming to reinforce them? If we can repulse their force on the way, then we may be able to win it. And if not, we'll have to continue with our guerrilla warfare to win the war.
Do you intend to kill the guerrilla?
Like, most likely, we'll do it.
The people, do you think they will follow?
Yes, very much.
Whether you think the Bengalis are right to fight for their independence, people of Rajshahi still doing, whether you feel the West Pakistan government is right to crush them, to do as all governments do when with rebellion, nevertheless, the sincerity and courage of these resistors in this small town was most striking. One young student said to me, just before we left, the fight is now only beginning. And this perhaps will be the political truth that the West Pakistan government will have to face.
তোমারটা যাবে, আমি নিয়ে যাবো আগে, ওটা আগে যাবে ডান দিকের পজিশন থেকে। তোমার কাছে কথা আছে? ওকে, সিনক্রোনাইজ ওয়াচ। ঘড়ি আছে? মিলাও। It will be 1635. Figure 3 zeros 25 20 35 sorry 15 10 5 4 3 2 1 time. Figure 1635 hours.